The Overwhelm is Optional podcast is for you if you want to quit the struggle with overwhelm. You want to live life to the full. You don't want to compromise your health and relationships in order to have well-paid, satisfying, meaningful work. You want it all on your terms. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Overwhelm is Optional podcast. If this is the first time you've been here, then welcome. Got a lovely, perfect first episode for you actually, I hope. And if you're usually here with me, then it's really nice to have you here. How's your week been? So I was going to do an update. I'm not going to. All right then. I'll tell you a little bit about what's going on with me. My raised beds are appearing before my very eyes. Simon's making them for me, and I planted my potatoes. I don't know if I told you about this. I had this vision of going to this potato day. I've always wanted to go to a potato day, which is where heritage potatoes, can be bought. It's quite difficult to get them otherwise. Anyway, in my head, I wanted these purple potatoes, and I went to the potato day, which was on my bucket list. Might sound small, but to me, it was important. And in my head, I saw purple potatoes, and my son, who was living with us at the time, said, "Don't be ridiculous. Firstly, there aren't purple potatoes, and secondly, you can't just imagine them and then go and see them." So what did I do? Yes, you guessed it. I went to the potato day and I walked in. There were the purple potatoes, but get this, not only were they purple, and I mean proper purple, not pretend purple, not like a little shade where they've labelled them purple and then they're not actually purple. No, I mean actual beautiful purple. Not only that, but get this, they were called Heidi. So that was a magical day. Anyway, so you get these potatoes, then you have to chip them, don't you? I don't know if you're into gardening. I love gardening. It's so magical. So you put them in little egg boxes and you put them on the windowsill, and then you wait for their little starts of their little branches coming out to be the leaves and the potato plant. And then you plant them. And it's late this year because we went from really hot weather suddenly to really cold weather. So I just waited. And also, actually, the raised beds weren't finished. They're still not finished. But the good thing about planting potatoes is because you keep covering them when the leaves grow, I can fill the raised bed as I go, which is really cool. And then Simon can finish. There's one bit missing where a chicken can get in. I don't want those chickens getting in. Anyway, that's what's been going on with me. That sounds quite funny. But to me, that was important. That's one of the things I've been excited about, and now I've done it. And yeah, let's just hope they grow. But even if they don't, the entire experience of going to find a purple potato and getting one, 5 actually, and then finding that they're called Heidi after me. Well, obviously not after me, but after me, because I just love them. It's pretty cool. So that's what happens when you start to create a life that works for you. Magical things like that happen because what I find is because I'm paying attention to what I really want, big and small. In fact, the smaller, the easier. And then I notice those things, and then there's more magic in my life. So that's one of the bizarre side effects, actually, because it's not what you think of, is it? When I say create a life that works for you, we always go to the big stuff, don't we? I need to make these big sweeping changes. Do I need to change my job? Do I need to move house? Do I need to change my relationship? And no wonder we feel stuck, because this is big stuff and we're already overwhelmed and exhausted. It's just too much. But actually, it's not about starting there. It's about starting with you and reconnecting to yourself and considering getting really clear on where you are, what's going on in your life. And then from there, once you learn the skills, the gentle rebel training, the skills of refocusing your attention and connecting to your heart and some other things, which I'm gradually going through in depth during this current series of podcast episodes. So I hope you're going to find that helpful. Anyway, this week, I want to get straight into it. So right now, if you're secretly struggling and wondering why your successful life, the one that you've worked really hard for, and if you take a step back, you can see, you have a home that you love, even if it, like mine, might need a lot of work doing. A lot of the things that a long time ago, or not even that long ago, but a lot of the things that you wanted, you now have. The relationship, the house, the job or the business. But your life doesn't work for you because you can't feel that. It doesn't feel like success when we're stuck in our head feeling really pressured and overwhelmed, when our head is so overloaded that we can't see or feel the success around us. When actually it's exhausting just thinking about all the things you need to do to just maintain, let alone grow, because you're not somebody who wants to actually just maintain what you've got. You actually want to grow your business or, do something with your career or your work or your home or your life. You might want to go traveling. There might be smaller things, like building the raised beds. It's like, well, when's that going to happen? It's just too hard. There's too much to do and there's too many things in the way of that. So that doesn't feel like success, does it? It doesn't feel like what we were promised. We were promised if we worked hard, then we would have more choice, more freedom, more ease. And that's not what tends to happen. And it's particularly not what tends to happen if you're like me and my clients, where we get stuck in our head quite easily because we're smart and we know how to use our brains. Our work demands the use of our minds, our brains. And so therefore we spend a lot of time, we're not using our hands. I think for people who are using their hands in their work, there's that provides a counterbalance, even if you're a person who tends to be somebody who likes reading and likes information and likes dreaming and has an active imagination. So for me and my clients, it's that overusing the mind, that the mind is actually quite a natural place to be. So I don't know about you, but when I was small, I was pretty daydreamy, and I would look at the pavement as I walked along. I wasn't really looking around, and I was told, that I should talk more or be more outgoing and stuff, look around and stuff. And although I can see the benefits of being told that, I actually now just purposely take that back and say, well, actually, I'm the kind of person who has a really cool imagination. I feel very connected to nature. So when I was a little girl walking along and just looking at the ground, I was really involved in the experience of that. And if I walk through the wood, actually, do I want to be looking around or do I want to be looking at the ground? It doesn't really matter. But being told that one thing's kind of a lower version of being alive, like you ought to be different than you are, I don't mean that. I'm not saying that the people who told me that when I was small were being unkind and trying to make me, well, I guess they were trying to encourage me to be better than I was, because that's what we do with our children, isn't it? And we want our children to be outgoing, and we don't want them to be, it's not really acceptable, is it, to be daydreamy and introverted and quiet. It's just not the way of the world. The world kind of demands this more outgoing energy. And I learnt to be much more extrovert. And at one point, you probably would have thought I was an extrovert. Whereas now I'm like, well, there's lots of different ways of being introvert or extrovert, but actually I recharge by being on my own. So that to me is my definition. Anyway, whoa, I've gone way off what I was going to say, but I hope that makes you feel at home. I hope that helps you connect with me and what I'm about to talk about. So my question to you this week is, how do you stop that part? So part of the struggle we have is that we are not putting ourselves first because we don't want to let anyone down. So if you're like me, you're a person of integrity, of honesty, wanting the world to be kinder, just wanting things to be less harsh. And you certainly don't want to be selfish and letting other people down. That's just not who you are. You're deeply uncomfortable with that idea. So when someone says to you, you need to look after yourself better, it's like, yeah, I know that. I can see that I need to look after myself better and I'm doing my best. But the truth is it's really hard because I'm under so much pressure. Is this you? You're under so much pressure that actually there's a clash between being able to look after yourself properly. And by that, I mean taking a lunch break, eating nourishing food, having time to move, whatever that means for you, whether you like running. I don't just mean exercise, I mean actual movement, because we get stuck, don't we, in one position, particularly when we're using our heads. Just like time to connect, time to laugh, time to sleep, time to have headspace from other people's needs and work. So that is, when I list it, it's like, well, obviously we should be doing that, because any sensible person's going to be looking after themselves. And yet I found that really hard. And if I get really excited about work, that'll go pretty quick. The difference is now I notice, and then I rebalance that and start putting myself first again. But all the people that I work with are not, none of them are stupid. Like, they all want to put themselves first. They're like, this is no good. I'm starting to feel unwell on a Saturday morning, and I'm getting grumpy and snappy, and I'm not myself. They know that, but like, what do you do? Because if you're under so much pressure that actually the only way to get through and not let anybody else down, the only way to do a really good job at work is to put yourself last, is to do what is actually encouraged. It is encouraged to go to work sick, although the whole COVID thing's interesting, isn't it? Because now it's apparently not acceptable to go to work sick. I mean, I used to go in coughing, sneezing, spluttering, on the walking stages of flu, which just used to extend it, and then I'd have another bout, because it was unacceptable, utterly unacceptable to take time off work if you could stand up. I mean, firstly, that's crazy in terms of just spreading germs, but secondly, it's also crazy because what it's saying is that your job is so unskilled that as long as you can stand up, it's good enough. So we're talking about just having bodies in an organisation to keep it going. And it's really interesting to me how quickly that got reversed into, no, you can't go to work even if you're well, because you have a test that says that you might have a virus. So that's really interesting to me, and it'd be interesting to see how that pans out and whether we can actually use that in a way that's both good for us and good for society. So it's no good if you have lots of people who aren't sick but are using it to skive. And that to me is where you're talking about selfishness, versus people who actually, you're not well, and now you can say, I'm not well. You can phone in sick. It'd be really good if people who are genuinely ill could now phone in sick without guilt and then get better. That would be a good thing to come out of this crazy ass time, but I don't know if that'll happen. And yeah, anyway, back to you. So you're struggling to look after yourself in a quite a basic way. I'm talking about nourishing food, sleep, movement, headspace for yourself. Like these are really basic things. And I'm pretty damn sure that when you worked really hard to create this successful life, you didn't expect to be permanently sacrificing your health and your happiness. It wasn't supposed to be permanent. It was supposed to be temporary. So let's be really clear here. If that's you, is your life working for you? And I would say no, but you get to decide. It took me years to realise that my life wasn't working for me. Years. And I look back and think, why did I not just do this? But yeah, it's my contemplation of it now is because I was always coming up with another solution, or thinking that this temporary sacrifice was genuinely temporary. I think it's very seductive to think that the missing of lunch breaks is temporary. The finding it difficult to hear your partner speak because you've had a really busy day is temporary. It is like the whole, why is there a thing about boiling frogs in water? It's just horrible. Anyway, there's the whole thing, isn't there? I hope it's a metaphor that if you boil a frog in cold water, it's not going to leap out because it doesn't realise until it's too hot and it's too late. And that is very, very much what I believe is happening to my clients, and that's what happened to myself. So it is burnout, but it's a subtle burnout, because I thought, and I don't know about you, but my impression of burnout, which used to be called a breakdown, it's swapped because unacceptable now. It's like, even though apparently we talk about mental health, at least we were 2 years ago, it's still not acceptable to have a breakdown. I really don't understand the difference between excuse me, burnout and breakdown. What's the difference? I don't know. Maybe there is. I don't care. I really don't care. I only care about you. Really, I only care about you. What's going on for you? And what I think is going on for you, if it's similar to what was going on for me, is that actually it's because you're lovely and you have high standards of integrity. It's because you are the person. There might be others, but I'm just talking about you. You are the person in a meeting, you are the person in the room who doesn't want to let people down, who wants to do a really good job and can see where customers and clients are being let down, who can see how some colleagues are working harder than others, and who doesn't want to be one of the shirkers, who doesn't want to be the person who's letting people down, who doesn't want to do a bad job. And it is your innate loveliness actually that's causing the problem. So that when I say to you, you need to start putting yourself first, you can't. Because even though you know you need to, and you can see the trouble that is already here, the exhaustion, the grumpiness, the snappiness, you've had enough, right? You're starting to get resentful, quite rightly. You're stuck. Because if the choice is between putting yourself first and letting other people down, you can't do that. Not unless you're forced to. It's like the calling, you can only call in sick, which will let people down, when you're really, really sick. Because you need permission to do that. Because it's too hard. We can't give up this integral part of ourselves. If we want the world to be full of kindness and love and the world to be better, then we can't behave in the opposite way. So there we're stuck. We can either lose an integral part of who we are, or we can lose very gradually and subtly, like a frog boiling in water. We can gradually lose our health and happiness. And it's a crap choice, isn't it? So if this sounds like you, listen up, because I have a solution for you. This is what I use with all of my clients and my students inside Get Your Life Back. So although I can't teach it in the same depth and provide the same support, I'd like to give you a flavour at it so you can try it out. And then if you know that it's starting to work for you, then hopefully you can start to think, right, so if this works for me, maybe there's more here for me and I need to consider joining Get Your Life Back, or asking if I can work with Heidi. I really want you to take that seriously. I want you to understand that although I share my knowledge, my experience, the experiences of my clients confidentially, obviously, and also some of my techniques that I teach and use that really, really work, it's not the same as joining a group, because a group energy is incredible. I cannot describe to you how special it is, how the container of having space held together as a group and hearing other women's stories, you can't beat that. I cannot give you that on a podcast. It just, you can't do it, right? So I just want to say this with a caveat here, that anything you take from me, like, you know, you may be a person who's downloaded this 1 minute mark, but are you using it? You may have downloaded my PDF last year, the tiny, huge, life-changing practices. You know, that you may have done lots of things that might have really helped, and I'm really glad it's helping. But I do want to be clear that if you're serious about the deep transformation that I provide when you work with me one-to-one, or when you come and join Get Your Life Back when the doors are open, you can't compare it. I remember one person inside Get Your Life Back who said before she joined, she was like, well, Heidi gives away so much for free on her podcast, you know, is it worth investing the money and the time and the energy? And she was blown away by the difference. So yeah, I just want to put that out there, because sometimes I feel like, I don't know, I'm wary of extending your surfing that verge of burnout by giving you things that temporarily help you. But at the same time, I also know that by hearing and resonating that I am helping you, because most of the people who end up working with me have listened to the podcast. So it's this gradual working out, yeah, this really works, and now I'm ready to commit to myself and go deeper. So I just wanted to put that out there for you. Anyway, so the question this week is, how do you stop letting yourself down without being selfish? Woohoo! How cool would that be? How lovely would it be for you to be able to say, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm on my lunch break, I can't help you at the moment. Literally to say that with love, with kindness, with a smile, with ease. Or how amazing would it be? I don't know about you, but I got really, really good at compartmentalizing work and life. I was so determined to nail this conundrum between successful work and successful life. It's like, but I should be happier than I am, so let's sort it out. So I was very, very good at compartmentalizing. And yet work was leaking into my life everywhere, and it's like trying to plug it. It's just leaking. I will do a whole episode on work-life leakage because it is a big thing. But how would it be for you if you could just literally go, right, that's work, and now I'm in the rest of my life, and be able to control that focus, be able to like notice the thought bombs we get about work after work hours, but be able to just ignore them without fear, without like, how cool would that be? I think that's one of the coolest things. I love that so much, the ability to say, right, yeah, but I'm not at work right now. It's like I have this little, I don't know about you, do you have a little conversation with your mind? I do. It is not the definition of insanity. It is definitely about getting to know yourself. And I think the more we can get to know ourselves and accept ourselves and love ourselves, but it's this knowledge, this self-awareness, and being able to talk to your mind and say things like, yeah, I get that you're worried about all of those things that I could have done better or didn't get finished, but this works out. School's out. I'm not doing that now. Thank you. So, I feel like I'm going into this whole work-life leakage thing. No, let's back it up. Let's back it up with some other beautiful imaginings, not just the lack of work-life leakage. Imagine if before you got hungry, you already had this space coming up and this really delicious, nourishing food in the fridge waiting for you. So it's done. You didn't have to think, oh, I'm really hungry, that's why I'm grumpy. That's why I'm feeling like this. I feel rubbish. What am I going to eat? I really don't want to eat what I brought with me. That is just rubbish. Like, in a world where your successful life actually feels successfully, doesn't it include enjoying lunch? Doesn't it include like having time to taste your lunch? Doesn't it include eating food that as you eat it feels deeply satisfying, fun, like nice? It's like one of the highlights of your day, because it does for me. I'm a big fan of food, but I need it to nourish me. I need the space to eat it, and I need the space to prepare it and think about it, but I don't want it to be a big deal. So I'm not going to spend hours doing that. But for me, making a priority in a way that works for me, that doesn't become another pressure, another thing to add to my to-do list, another thing to get better at, because it's so boring, nagging myself all the time with this overwhelming to-do list and this overwhelming get better at list, rubbish. So, but having that in a way that works for me is part of feeling successful in my life. It just is. It's such a basic thing. It might not be for you because food might not be as important. But I don't know. Looking at this, I'm just thinking about the discussions we've had inside Get Your Life Back and with my private clients about food. And I can't think of one of them for whom food hasn't come up. So yeah, another one that comes up a lot is dogs. And I'm really aware that not all of you have dogs, and you could have another animal or no animal. It really doesn't matter. But I talk about dogs because they're a really important part of my life, and they pop up a lot on our Zoom group coaching calls or one-to-one coaching calls. Dogs, I've met, in inverted commas, all of my clients' dogs, and I love it. Absolutely love it. I get so excited. But one of the things that comes up is this thing of, not really being able to cope with the dog when you feel really stressed and pressured. So wouldn't it be nice, and this is one of the things for me, was I would come home from work, and as much as I love my dogs, their greeting was too much. I was like, my skin felt too thin, and I just was so overwhelmed. I'm like, I just need space. I really needed like a space bubble put around me, because it was just too much. And that's so sad, isn't it? And I wasn't horrible to the dog, but I just remember the whole, oh my God, this is so. And I have Cavalier Spaniels. I don't know if you know Cavalier Spaniels, but they were bred to be companion dogs, and so they don't leave you. So me going out for the day, they didn't like that. I mean, Simon was at home, but you know, they wanted me at home, so it works well. They got their wishes, because now I work from home, because that's an essential part of my life, working for me. But yeah, Cavalier Spaniels will literally jump all over you. Like, you go into a house of Cavalier Spaniels, and if you sit down, they'll be like sat on your head. They'll be like, they're just hilarious. And when I was really, really struggling, that friendliness, that amount of love, I couldn't cope with it. So, but I know it's not always about the amount of love. Often it's like the dog's not behaving in a way that feels acceptable, and it just becomes this overwhelming pressure to get that sorted. And the problem is that because dogs don't really fit into the way we've set up modern life. I don't think humans do either, to be fair. I'm with the dogs. The dogs want to hang out with us all the time, and the dogs want to run free and, you know, just be dogs. Well, I'm pretty sure humans want to be running free, just being humans as well. So anyway, wouldn't it be nice if, when your dog did something, in inverted commas, wrong, you didn't take it deeply personally and feel like, oh my God, I've failed at this as well? Wouldn't it be nice if you just got to enjoy your dog? And although, yes, you were trying to help your dog be able to find it easier to be in our current world, you know, by not being too reactive or whatever, you were still like, yeah, but that's my dog. I love my dog anyway. I'm so grateful for my dog. Even though my dog annoys me when it does this, I love my dog. And being able to feel that, being able to feel like the successful dog owner. Can you see? So there's lots of things, aren't there, that we can swap when we swap from the, and I know the dog owner thing's not even what we were talking about, because I was talking about very basic stuff, wasn't I? But the problem is that when we ignore the basic stuff, like eating nourishing food, having headspace for ourselves, you know, being able to move when we need to move, and get outside and sleep, sleeping outside unless you want to sleep outside, but, you know, being able to sleep through the night without being bombarded by work and life admin pressure. All of these very basic things that nourish our bodies and nourish our soul and make us happy, the basic stuff that if you have children, you make sure children have. But as adults, we start going, oh no, that's optional for me. I can temporarily do without that, because you don't see any other choice, because you're under immense pressure to give up those very things that are so essential for you. One of the consequences of doing that over a long period of time is that you can't cope with some of the best things in your life, like your dog, or even your home. You know, wouldn't it be nice to not feel like your home needed a lot of your attention? Like, there's all the life admin for a house, there's all the looking after a house. Then, I mean, in my case, there's a ton of renovation. So for me, it's constantly just making sure that I'm staying focused on the beauty of being in my dream house, even though as yet we haven't finished renovating. So yeah, wouldn't it be nice if it was just easier to cope with your life, and not just cope with it, but actually enjoy it? Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't you want that for yourself? Wouldn't you want to feel the success that you have worked really hard for? Wouldn't you want to start behaving and feeling like the person that you thought you would feel like when you worked really hard for exams, got promotions, went for interviews, filled out job application, applied to do that project, finished that project, set up that business, got that client, grew the business, took on that employee, like all the things we do in order basically to feel a certain way, to have this feeling of satisfaction and like we've made it. Wouldn't you want that? Because it starts with the very basic self-care stuff of being able to say things like, I'm eating lunch. I am unavailable, I'm eating lunch. Or to your mind, I'm unavailable for work pressures, I'm at home now. Or it's not work time if you work from home. Isn't that what you want? Well, if you want that, which I'm pretty damn sure you do, I hope you do, because I want that for you, then it starts with putting yourself first. So we need to find a way that you can put yourself first without it feeling selfish, because if it feels selfish, you feel like you're losing that part of yourself that you cannot lose, the integral, kind, loving person that you are. So let's do this. So let's start with the whole selfish thing. Now I'm going to do another episode on diving deeper into selfishness. So I'm just going to park that slightly because I want to get you committing to yourself. I can't give you permission. I want you to be able to give yourself permission to put yourself first so that you can look after yourself on a very basic level so that you can reduce your overwhelm and start finding your way. So this is the gentle rebel way. This is the let's do it at your own pace in a way that works for you, that's almost imperceptible to everyone else, so it doesn't create added pressure because you've got to deal with other people's expectations and reactions to what you're doing. That's the gentle rebel way. It's kind of under the radar. It's sneaky and it's private because you're a private person. You don't want to discuss this stuff with people at work, and good for you. So the thing is, how you are matters. So it was quite a long time after I had recovered from burnout that people started to react to me differently, and that's because I'd done the gentle rebel way, although I didn't know it at the time because nobody taught me. I looked everywhere and couldn't find anything to help me, which is why I do this work now, because I believe it's so essential. So one of the worst things, actually, I mean, it's great when people say, oh, you're just so much easier going now. It's like, yeah, well, this is how it used to be. So I mean, it's kind of nice when people say that, but at the same time, it's also quite shocking, isn't it? It's like, oh God, how embarrassing. And then there was all the shame to deal with and the rest of it, and the guilt and the rubbish, and like, why did I ever let myself get into that kind of state? But one of the worst things for me was when my son revealed to me how pretty awful I'd been. You know, how difficult he'd found it when I was really stressed. And that, I mean, he's a grown man, so he can cope with it, but it's not nice, is it? It's like, oh, where did I disappear to? This is not the life I intended to live. This is not what I wanted. So, and just the thing is, despite all my best efforts, me not looking after myself was impacting those around me. So there's those people close to you, the people that you are slightly off with, you're certainly not yourself with, but you think you're getting away with it. This is the thing, we think we're getting away with it, but we're not. I remember crying in cafes a lot. And then we kind of laugh about it because, I mean, I cry easily. I cry with joy all the time. Like tears come easily for me, and they're different now. So when I was really stressed, it would be tear leakage and it would be uncomfortable and inconvenient and shameful. Whereas now it's like Heidi's crying at a beautiful sunset or a beautiful flower, or yeah. So I have this childlike ability to see wonder everywhere, and tears often come with it. It's funny. Anyway, but my point is that you think you're making the best decision because from where you are, and this is what I argue about overwhelm, it's so essential to deal with, because when you're overwhelmed, you can't see, quite literally. So it looks like from where you are that you have two choices. One, become the selfish person that you can't be. It's just, you can't be the selfish person, so you're stuck. Or temporarily sacrifice some of your basic needs in order to get through and not let anyone down. And Though, whenever I say that, whenever you have only two choices in front of you, particularly noticeable when they're equally shit, like those aren't choices. Neither of those are acceptable. The difference is one of them you think you can get away with, particularly when you tell yourself it's temporary. It's okay, I can miss out my lunch, or I can just eat it later, or I can just eat it in 5 minutes to help this person. Like, these aren't real choices, and it is overwhelm that prevents us seeing the wood from the trees. It is overwhelm. It's like a big, thick, heavy, pressured blanket of fog, and it stops us seeing that this is a lie. So I would say to you, any time that you think you only have two choices and neither of those is acceptable, so therefore you're taking what feels like the least worst choice, it's not true. It's overwhelm. Blame the overwhelm. Don't blame yourself. Blame the overwhelm, because it's real and it's dismissed all the time. Oh, I just feel overwhelmed. Some people just feel overwhelmed and they can sort themselves out quite easily. We're not talking about them. We're talking about you, and you matter. You matter very, very much. And noticing paying more attention, if you can't do, which I couldn't, if you find it really, really difficult to prioritize your own needs when under pressure, then it's worth gathering evidence for how the choice that you find yourself making may be impacting the people that you love in a way that you don't intend to. But you have to go really gently here, because what you're trying to do is find evidence that will give yourself permission to revisit that split choice of rubbish in a different way. This exercise is not designed, obviously, to add to your overwhelm pressure. So if you deliberately go and find all of the ways that you are failing in your relationships, that's not what I'm talking about. Don't do that. Like, seriously, don't do that. How is that going to help? No, take the overwhelm seriously, because it's not good for you, but it's also not good for those around you. And then from there, if you start to realize that it does matter how you are, that your unhappiness is leaking out in ways that you won't be aware of. Probably not at work, which is probably a good thing, because if you've worked really hard to have a certain degree of respect and responsibility and professional standing, actually you don't want to damage that, because that's costly. So it's good that it's not leaking out at work. However, it will be leaking out somewhere, and it is impacting not just you. So while you may be able to go, well, I'm really tired, I'm not sleeping very well, I just feel stupidly overwhelmed, and I'm not really happy about how my life's turned out. I don't feel successful. And if you're stuck in that crap and it's horrible, you have my huge sympathy and empathy, because I've been in your shoes. Then noticing that it's actually, that's bad, but you think there isn't any choice, but actually you need to make it a choice and start giving yourself permission, because it is actually impacting more than that, like your partner, your friends, and then we can go to this whole thing of like, the reason we don't want to let other people down is because we want the world to be a better place. We want the world, quite rightly, to be kinder, to be less harsh. We don't want selfishness. Yeah, I'm with you. So if you go from that point of view, all of the times that you don't smile in the world, people miss those smiles. So when you put yourself first and you find it easier to laugh, you find it easier to feel at ease, you find it easier to smile, you find it easier to notice all of the good stuff around you. You find it easier to see that actually there's limitless options, not two crap ones that are unacceptable. Then you impact the world in a really good way. Can you see? So the choice isn't actually between temporary sacrifice of your basic needs or being selfish at work. There's loads of other choices, like I choose to look after myself better because then I smile more. I'm nicer to be around. And that matters, and that ripples out. So now you might be thinking, yes, but Heidi, I can't do that because I will let these people down. Okay, you're back in the overwhelm. I'm saying, yes, that's what it looks like right now for you. I'm saying it's not true, but it feels true, and I get it. I completely get it. Let's not start there, because you're starting in the overwhelm, and it's a useless place to start. It's exhausting. It's like trying to shine a phone light through fog walking in front of your car because your headlights aren't working. Like, it's just crap. It doesn't work. So let's not start in the middle of the overwhelm. Let's just reframe it and make it as easy as possible for you to find a way forward by daring. I just want you to dare to believe me when I say, when you start committing to yourself first, that's when you change the world. That's when you get to spread more kindness. That's when there is less selfishness in the world, because it's not selfish. And the problem is, though, if I say to you, self-care is not selfish, everybody's saying that. It's like, you know that intellectually, but will somebody please show you how to be able to meet your own needs without letting people down, because you're stuck in that choice. And I'm saying that I get that choice. To see the other choices that are currently invisible is your next step. Just to allow yourself to see them. And to be able to see them, you have to take a blind leap of faith with me, and you have to commit yourself first. And then there will be imperceptible shifts. So then the second thing you need to do is start noticing shifts. And when those shifts start happening, gently and almost invisibly, you will start to see that there are other ways that you can't see at the moment. So I think Einstein, there's some lovely Einstein quote, which I can never remember quite, something about you can't solve a problem from the level of consciousness you're at. So basically, when we're overwhelmed, when we're in severe life-crushing overwhelm, when we're making decisions that are impacting our very health and happiness and our well-being, but we think that's okay, which clearly it isn't, but there's nothing we can do because we're stuck, because we don't want to be selfish and let other people down, so we're really stuck. When we try and make a decision from there, it's useless. So don't bother. Don't try making big decisions or any decisions. Just don't try solving your big problems about work and life from the point of deep fog and pressure of overwhelm. Forget that. Instead, come with me. Right. So one of the most fundamental tools I use is called the morning promise. And I'm going to teach it to you now, but I want you to understand that there's a ton more to it. And that if you're going to do it on your own, then you need to explore it for yourself. Because obviously I can't coach you on a podcast, but I'm still going to give it to you as a gift, because I believe it is so transformative that you deserve the opportunity to explore it for yourself. And then if you decide, wow, I can really see that this could have a big impact on my life, then you can, book a discovery call, and we can talk about whether you might want to join the next round of Get Your Life Back, or whether you might want to have one-to-one bespoke coaching. Both of those are great options if it's the right time and if you're the right person to come and work with me. But I want to gift you the morning promise, because I've found it to be just so deeply transformational. Now, it's completely linked to my other tools. Obviously, everything's linked beautifully and it all works really well. But I'm just going to give you this one. You could start here. If you haven't done any neutral noticing, if it's the first time listening to the podcast, absolutely fine. If you downloaded the 1 minute mark and you've lost it and you haven't used it, it's a shame. But, it's hard to stay committed on your own. So try this. See if this really helps you to see that there actually are alternative ways, and that the stark choice you have in front of you that isn't working for you is not the only way. So the gentle rebel commits to herself first, to living her life her way. So instead of looking for one unique solution, instead of looking for one solution, which is what our brains do, right? If only I can solve this. what the gentle rebel does is, in committing to herself every day, it's the very first thing she does on waking, then she will find the best way to move through that day. And over time, she will find the solutions to bigger things. So instead of starting from the big problems, like, should I quit my job to survive? Should I move house? Like all the big stuff, instead of dealing with the big stuff first, we start with the very small. So the morning promise is a commitment to yourself first. And for you, if you're feeling like this is really hard, I can't commit to myself first because it would be selfish, you're not dealing with that big conundrum first. What you're doing is daring to say, right, I'm just going to try this out. I'm just going to notice completely neutrally how this feels for me. I'm going to notice the impact of starting my day to a commitment to myself first, and just explore that. And it's best to be curious, to keep it neutral, and to play. So it's a tool that you get to use. So let's try it together. So the morning promise, I mean, I do get up. I don't do it first thing because I do go and get a cup of tea and then I do it. It's very simple, but it's one of my tiny, huge practices, which means it's very, very small, so it doesn't take very long, but it's huge in that it's a deep practice. And it deepens the more you use it and the more you decide to deepen it. So you're doing it in your own way, at your own pace. And this is really important because the gentle rebel way is unique to you. So there's not one way, but there is my philosophy of the gentle rebel, which is that you're a rebel because you don't fit into this current paradigm of sacrificing yourself to have success. That doesn't work for you. If you were able to compromise on it, you wouldn't be a rebel. You wouldn't be so unhappy. You just go, well, this is how life is. Life is pretty tough and overwhelming, but I can get by and I'm okay with that. And then I'll retire one day. And that's pretty much how a lot of people are. And that's okay. That's not you. One of the reasons that you're struggling is because you are a rebel. You don't want to accept the way things are. And usually that's because the cost is too high. So right now you're like, well, I can see I need to look after myself better, but I don't see a way of doing that without being selfish and letting other people down, which I can't do. So I'm stuck. And I'm saying, just commit to yourself first every morning. So it takes, a minute, 2 minutes, but it's a practice. And it's the depth to which you commit to the practice that matters. So it's very simple. I think it's best putting your hand on your heart just because it's easier. But if you were like, if you can't get 1 minute or 2 minutes to yourself and that your partner's in the room or your kids are in the room and it's just, you still want to do it by just like temporarily withdrawing your attention from them and bringing your attention to yourself, and you don't want to draw attention to that, then don't worry about. There's not one way to do it. So what you're doing is you're pulling your attention back into your body. So I don't know about you, but on waking, my mind does tend to race ahead with its plans for the day, bringing your attention back into your body. Notice how you feel. And then out loud or in your head, you say, I commit to myself first. My life, my way. And then you notice how that feels. And then anything that comes up, like, well, I'm feeling really tired, that might come up, yeah? Like your body might be feeling tired. So then your commitment to yourself first for that day might be, I'm just going to be a little bit gentler. I'm going to take things a little slower whenever there's an opportunity. It could not even be that. And the point is to not add to your to-do list until you'll get better at list. I commit to myself first. My life, my way. What does that mean for you today? And there might not be an answer, and that's okay. There might not be anything to change about your day. To start with, it might just be, I commit to myself first, my life, my way. And that gradually seeps into your body. It's a very heart-centered, it's an embodied promise. What would that look like for you? And allowing that slight leap of faith into this playful, curious experiment. I commit to myself first. And you can notice the resistance, because if you're getting, well, I can't, don't be ridiculous, I haven't got time to commit myself first today, that's really selfish, I can't do that. Notice it neutrally. So it is a neutral noticing practice, but it's very focused. It's focused on committing to yourself first. It's the gentle rebel's promise. It's how everything starts. It's saying, my life isn't working for me. I've worked really hard to try and make it work. It's not working. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to try the gentle rebel way. And that starts with a commitment to yourself first. So I'm going to stop there because I want to not give you any expectations of it. I want to just allow you to do it every morning for a week. And if you want to email me and let me know how you get on, or you want to consider working with me, or you want to ask questions, then please feel free. I will answer personally. That's heidi@heidimark.co.uk. So, yeah, I dare you to commit a leap of faith and just commit yourself first using the morning promise. It's 1 minute, literally very fast. I dare you to do that every day and be curious about any shifts, any resistance that comes up, and just be curious about it. Okay, thank you for being here, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If this resonates with you, please use the like, subscribe and share buttons to help other people find their way here too. And please do go to www.heidimark.co.uk/the 1 minute mark with an E to join my mailing list and receive my free 1 minute life-changing audio practice.